The air was warm and thick with alien smells as the human ambassador, Eli Ward, stepped off the ramp of the starship. He took a deep breath and looked around the glowing landing platform. Tall silver towers reached toward the sky, and strange purple birds flew overhead. Alien guards stood in perfect lines, wearing dark armor with sharp shoulder plates. But none of this prepared Eli for what was about to happen. A tall figure stepped forward. She was not wearing a helmet like the others. Her skin was soft silver blue, her hair long and glowing like strands of starlight, and her eyes bright and shining like twin moons locked onto his. She walked toward him with calm, slow steps, her long robe flowing behind her like mist. Eli gave a respectful nod and placed his hand on his chest, as he was trained to do. He had read the Valari greeting custom Zor, so he thought, but before he could say a single word, she grabbed his face gently, leaned in, and her tongue slid right into his mouth. Eli's eyes went wide. His whole body froze. Was this an attack? Was this a test? Was this what the ambassador manual had completely failed to mention? Her tongue was warm, soft, and oddly slow. She didn't seem aggressive. In fact, her expression was calm, almost polite. After a few seconds, she pulled back and smiled lightly. "Welcome, human Eli Ward," she said softly. "My name is Kayla. Of House Viren, first tongue of the Valari people." Eli stood there, blinking, his mouth still slightly open. He didn't know whether to wipe his lips or salute. "Thank you," he finally managed to say. His voice cracked, his face turned red, his brain screamed. What just happened? Kayla tilted her head slightly. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her voice smooth like honey. "You appear troubled." Eli laughed nervously. No, not at all. Just unexpected welcome," he said. He tried to smile, but it looked more like a panic signal. The guards behind her didn't move. They didn't even blink. Clearly, this was normal for them. Clearly, he had no idea what he'd walked into. A moment later, a small floating translator drone buzzed between them. It spoke softly. Clarification. The Valari species expresses polite greeting through mutual tongue contact. Please do not resist. Eli blinked again. He wanted to scream. Why wasn't that in the briefing? Kayla gestured toward a smooth silver hallway behind her. "This way, please," she said kindly. "We have arranged refreshments and a private room for you to recover from your long journey." Recover? He wasn't sure he ever would. Still, Eli followed her, walking stiffly like a soldier who just got kissed by a thunderstorm. As they entered the hallway, the doors closed behind them with a soft hum. The walls glowed with shifting colors, calming blues and greens. Kayla looked over her shoulder and gave him a soft smile. "You are quite warm," she said casually. "Our males are usually cooler to the touch." Eli almost tripped. He quickly looked away. "I guess humans are built little different," he muttered. Kayla nodded slowly. "Different can be fascinating," she said, almost whispering. His heart was racing again. He didn't know if this was diplomacy or flirtation or some alien game he didn't understand. All he knew was he needed help, and fast. They entered a chamber with cushions on the floor and small bowls of glowing fruit. Kayla sat gracefully and motioned for him to do the same. Eli sat awkwardly, knees bent too high. Unsure of every move, Kayla watched him with soft, curious eyes. "Would you like another greeting?" she asked politely. "It may help you adjust more quickly to our atmosphere." Eli's breath caught in his throat. "Another greeting?" Before he could answer, the door beeped. A tall Valari male stepped in allure, with markings on his arms. He bowed to Kayla, then looked at Eli with a serious face. "You have shared the first tongue," the male said. "You are now part of the sacred guest code." Eli had no idea what that meant, but Kayla stood up slowly, her face more serious now. "You must be protected. she said. There are some. Who will not like that a human now carries the first touch? Eli blinked again. Wait, what do you mean protected? Kayla looked into his eyes, calm and steady. It means, she whispered, you belong to us now. And before he could speak, she leaned forward, closer again. Eli sat on the soft alien cushion, still tasting something sweet and strange on his tongue. His heart hadn't calmed since the moment Kayla kissed him. He kept telling himself it was just a greeting, just their custom, but nothing felt normal anymore. And now he had just heard the words, you belong to us now. He didn't know what that meant, not really. But something about the way Kayla looked at him, calm and curious, made his chest tighten. It wasn't just a political welcome, it felt like something personal, something alive. The Valari male who had entered the room stood silently near the wall, his arms crossed. Eli kept glancing at him, hoping someone would explain. But instead, Kayla picked up a piece of glowing fruit, broke it open, and held half toward Eli. You must be hungry, she said softly. Eli stared at the glowing inside of the fruit. Looked like jelly mixed. With lightning, he hesitated, then took it with a quiet thanks. As soon as he tasted it, it melted in his mouth like warm honey. Kayla's eyes lit up. It accepts you, Eli blinked. What does? The fruit, she replied. It only softens when someone means no harm. Eli nearly choked. So, the food tested him too. He looked at the second half, still in her hand and melted, untouched. She handed it to the guard, who bit into it. Without a problem, Kayla's voice remained calm. But there was a strange glow in her eyes. You did not resist the first tongue, she said slowly. That is rare, for your kind. I didn't resist because I was too shocked, Eli muttered. Not because I knew what I was doing. Kayla tilted her head, clearly amused. You responded though, she said with a playful tone. Eli looked away, cheeks red again. She wasn't teasing him the way a human might. It felt more like she was studying him like a scholar, finding a strange new book that whispered back. Just. Then, the wall behind her shimmered, and a clear screen appeared. Valari figures danced across Italian text and soft images of others kissing. Sharing the first tongue, Eli saw diplomats, guards, even what looked like children practicing it. Gently, it was truly their way of saying hello. His heart calmed a little. But something still didn't sit right, if this was so common. Then why had Kayla looked so surprised after their kiss? Why did her hands tremble just slightly when she offered the fruit? Kayla stood, suddenly more serious. We will go too. The Hall of Voices, she said. You must greet the council. Eli stood slowly, weight high, have to kiss more people. Kayla looked at him, her expression unreadable. Only the ones who wish to know your soul, she replied. Only those who accept your breath. That made it worse somehow. Eli followed her through glowing halls, strange plants hanging from the ceiling like soft feathers. Alien whispers followed them. He couldn't understand them, but the way they stared made his skin crawl. A few Valari females even smiled at him, some lowering their eyes. He realized he wasn't just some guest anymore. He was something else to them now. Inside the Hall of Voices, everything echoed. Tall mirrors showed shifting light. And a group of Valari stood in a half circle. They were all elegant, tall, and shining in different tones of silver and blue. One stepped forward, a woman with markings across her cheeks and long braids of crystal hair. I am Sarin of the third tongue, she said, her voice like wind. I greet you, Eli, of Earth. Eli looked at Kayla in panic. Was he supposed to? Do it again. Tongue first. Was there a signal? A rule? Kayla simply nodded once, so he stepped forward, heart hammering, and allowed Sarin to lean in. She kissed him slow and soft and then stepped back. Sarin's eyes widened slightly. Then she smiled. He carries the heat of stars. She said, turning to the others. The bond is real. Eli barely heard anything after that. More came forward. Not all, just a few. Some gave only a short nod. Others offered the greeting. Each one made Eli more confused, more dizzy, and strangely warm. But it wasn't until the final figure stepped forward, another female with golden eyes and scars across her lips, that something strange happened. She leaned in for the greeting, and just before their tongues met, Kayla stepped in between them. Blocking her path with a quiet but firm voice, "He has greeted enough for today," she said. The woman looked annoyed but didn't argue. She simply bowed and returned to her place. Eli looked at Kayla, confused again. She didn't explain. Instead, she just took his hand gently and whispered, "Some kisses are not for diplomacy." Eli couldn't sleep that night. He lay on the soft, warm bed inside the Valari guest quarters, staring at the glowing ceiling. Strange music floated through the air like perfume, and the walls pulsed gently like a living heartbeat. But none of that helped him rest. His lips still tingled. His mind kept playing the same moment over and over. Kayla stepping in, stopping the last councilwoman from kissing him. Her voice, low and firm, still echoed in his ears. Some kisses are not for diplomacy. He didn't understand why she did that. She had stayed quiet after that, only nodding to the council and walking him out. Now she was gone. No guards, no translator drone, just silence. Eli sat up slowly, rubbing his face. This mission was supposed to be simple: build peace, share ideas, return home. No one warned him about kissing, aliens, emotional bonds, or glowing skin reactions. And why did it feel worse that Kayla hadn't said goodnight? He shook the thought from his head, stood up, and stepped into the hallway. The corridors were quiet, glowing softly in pale blue light. He walked, not sure where he was going, just needing to move. Then he heard something, faint and soft, like humming. He followed the sound, step by step, until he saw her. Kayla sat alone near a tall window, looking out at the stars. Her robe was off her shoulders, and her hair was down, falling like liquid silver over her back. Eli paused, unsure if he should speak. But before he could decide, she looked over and saw him. "You couldn't sleep either," she said gently. He nodded, stepping closer. "No, my brain won't stop." Kayla gave a small smile. It happens to many who share the first tongue for the first time. Eli sat beside her, leaving space between them. "You stopped the last one from greeting." "Me? Why?" Kayla didn't answer right away. She looked back at the stars, her fingers brushing against her arm. "That one? Her tongue carries poison," she said softly. "Not in the way you understand poison, not for the body, but for the heart." Eli's eyebrows rose. "She would have hurt me." Kayla nodded slowly. "She would have marked you, claimed you with her kiss. Even if your soul didn't choose her." That made Eli sit up straighter. "So, these greetings, they're not just greetings." Kayla turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. "For some, they are casual. For others, they awaken something deeper." Eli swallowed hard. "And for you?" Kayla's lips parted, but she said nothing. The silence between them was full like thunder about to crack. Then she whispered, "I've kissed thousands for duty, but none made my skin glow." "Until you." Eli blinked. Stunned, she stood up, walking slowly around him, then stopped behind his chair. "Do you know what that means, human?" He shook his head, heart pounding. Kayla leaned closer, her lips near his ear. "It means something inside me sees something inside you and does not wish to let go." Eli turned to face her, but she had already moved to the center of the chamber. A soft panel rose from the floor, projecting a glowing image into the air. It was his face, and hers beside it, connected by flowing threads of light. This is what happens when two Valari match in soul resonance, she said quietly. The system doesn't lie. Even if we wanted to. Eli stood slowly, unsure what to say. He wasn't Valari, wasn't part of their system, but it had responded to him, shown this bond. Kayla reached out, brushing her fingers against his, and in that moment, the threads in the air shimmered brighter. She pulled back, startled. No, this isn't normal, she whispered. You're not just a guest anymore. Eli stared at the lights, then at her, then what am I? Kayla's lips trembled as she said the next words. You might be chosen. Suddenly, alarms rang through the halls, a deep, echoing sound like thunder. Underwater, Kayla turned sharply. They know, she said. They've seen the bond. Eli's voice came out barely a whisper. Who's they? She grabbed his hand, her grip firm and fast. Those who would kill to stop what just happened. Between us? The lights above them flickered red, painting Kayla's silver-blue skin in waves of warning. A loud pulse echoed through the glowing hallways. Slow at first, then faster. Eli's heart matched the rhythm, thudding harder with every second. He wasn't sure what had just happened, only that something sacred had awakened, and someone wanted it stopped. Kayla held his hand tighter now, pulling him through a side passage that hissed open as she approached. He followed without question, past smooth, curved walls and strange glowing roots crawling along the ceiling. Her steps were fast and graceful, but there was tension in her body. This was no ceremony anymore. Where are we going? Eli asked, breath short. To a safe place. Kayla said, not looking back. There aren't many left. Why would they attack just because of a bond? He asked. Kayla slowed. Only slightly, just enough to glance at him with a fire in her eyes. Because a bond with a human breaks the old ways, she said, and the old ways are guarded by those who fear change. They turned sharply, entered a chamber filled with soft mist, and the door sealed behind them. The red alarms faded here, replaced by deep blue light and soft hums. Kayla released his hand but didn't move far. Her breathing was shallow, her chest rising and falling quickly. Eli stared at her, still shaken. You said I might be chosen. What does that even mean? Kayla touched a panel, and a small screen opened beside them. An image appeared to glowing forms, locked in a kind of light embrace. The chosen are not selected by titles or blood, she said softly. They are recognized by resonance. When our inner energy connects without force, without command, the bond forms on its own. Eli frowned. But I'm not even Valari. Kayla stepped closer again, her voice low. That's what makes this dangerous, she said. No offworlder has ever triggered resonance. Until you... He looked away, still trying to understand, and yet, deep inside, something in him had changed. When she kissed him that second time, something had awakened in him too. Not just confusion, not just attraction. Something warm, alive, and now that warmth pulsed in his hands. His chest, even his throat, like electricity gently crawling under his skin. Kayla reached out suddenly and placed her hand over his heart. Eli froze. Her touch was gentle, but the moment her skin touched his, the room responded, the mist lit up. And the lights pulsed again, but not red this time, gold. Kayla gasped, not in fear, but wonder. It's spreading, she whispered. The bond is sinking both ways. Eli stepped back, stunned. But I didn't agree to anything. You didn't need to. Kayla interrupted. Your soul did. Before either could say more, a sharp sound cracked through the chamber, metal striking. Metal, followed by an electronic hiss. A hidden door behind the wall suddenly burst open, and a tall figure in dark armor stepped inside. His eyes glowed red beneath a bone-white helmet. Kayla stepped in front of Eli without hesitation, her arm Out. No farther, she said sharply, her voice like ice. The armored figure didn't stop. You've broken the code. Kayla, he said in a cold, deep voice, you bonded with an outsider. You know the punishment. Kayla stood firm. He didn't force it. The bond formed on its own. Doesn't matter, the figure said, pulling a long, curved weapon from his back. If he lives, the old bloodlines break. We cannot allow it. Eli had no training in alien combat, no armor. Nothing, only his body and his fear. But when the figure stepped forward, blade raised. Eli stepped in front of Kayla, his arms spread wide. He didn't think, didn't plenty. Just moved. The armored figure paused, stunned for a second. Kayla gasped. What are you doing? I don't know, Eli said, breath trembling. But I'm not letting anyone hurt you. The figure raised his weapon again, this time with force, and just as the blade came down, something exploded from Eli's chest, a wave of golden light, hot and silent, burst outward like a silent scream. The armored attacker flew backward, hitting the wall with a hard crack and sliding to the floor. Unmoving, the room returned to silence. The mist falling still again, Eli fell to his knees, gasping. His skin glowed faintly, now just like Kayla's. Kayla dropped beside him, eyes wide-eyed. I didn't know humans could do that, she whispered. Neither did I, he replied, coughing softly, but I felt it. When you touched me, I felt like I needed to protect something more than myself. Kayla touched his face gently, not kissing him this time, just holding him steady. We need to leave this planet, she said. They won't stop now. But if we reach the temple of breath, we can prove the bond is real. Eli nodded weakly. Then, let's go. The escape ship was not made for comfort. It was small, cold, and shaking with every burst of speed as it left the planet's atmosphere. Eli sat on the floor, still breathing hard, his skin dimly glowing from whatever had awakened inside him. Across from him, Kayla worked fast at the controls, her fingers moving like wind, her face tight with focus. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was full of heavy thoughts. Full of questions neither dared to ask yet. Eli stared at his hands, watching the last flickers of golden light fade from his skin. That light had knocked down a trained Valari warrior. That light had come from him. He looked up at Kayla, her eyes still glowing faintly in the reflection of the ship's glass window. Where are we going? He finally asked, voice rough. Kayla didn't look back, but she answered, to the Temple of Breath. He didn't know what that meant, but the name alone gave him chills. Is it safe there? No, she said quickly, but it's sacred. No weapons, no blood, only truth. If we show them the bond, they'll have to honor it, or risk breaking the old laws themselves. Eli leaned back, resting his head against the wall. His body ached, but something deeper inside him was changing. It wasn't just the light or the strange energy. It was the feeling that his place in the galaxy had just been rewritten. They flew through silence for hours, passing stars that blinked like sleepy eyes. Eli didn't sleep. He couldn't. Kayla finally sat beside him, pulling a thin silver cloth over both of them as the ship cooled. Her shoulder touched his gently. You were ready to die for me, she said quietly. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect a lot of things, Eli replied with a weak smile. But when that guy raised the blade, something inside me said, move. That's all. Kayla looked at him, and there was something new in her eyes, something softer, something unsure. There's a story in our history, she whispered, about a time before the first tongue, before our glowing skin, before the bond. A time when one outsider touched a Valari and unlocked something lost. Most believe it's myth. Do you believe it? Eli asked. I didn't, she said, until you. The ship jolted slightly as it entered a low orbit above a dark planet covered in thick clouds. Kayla stood and walked to the window, pointing. At the surface below, that's where it all began. The Temple of Breath. The air there is thinner, but older. Honest, Eli stood beside her, watching as the ship slowly descended. The ground was black stone, cracked and dry, but glowing lines pulsed across it like the veins of the planet itself. Massive statues stood in silence, each one carved like a Valari figure with long tongues reaching toward the stars. The landing was rough, and as they stepped outside, a sharp wind hit them, dry and cold. Kayla pulled her robe tighter and looked around. No guards. That's good. No one dares to fight here, but we must go inside together, not a step apart. Eli nodded, and they walked toward the wide gates, which opened without a sound as they approached. Inside was a circular chamber filled with soft mist and strange symbols floating in the air. A soft voice echoed, not from any speaker, but from the very walls. State the bond, it said. Kayla stood tall, her voice steady. We bring light from 2 stars, one old, one new. The bond has awakened. The mist circled them, thick and warm now, rising around their bodies like breath itself. Eli reached for her hand, and the moment their skin touched, the room changed. The mist turned gold. Rising faster, the symbols glowed bright and then vanished into the air. A shape appeared in front of them, a tall figure made of smoke and starlight. Its face unreadable, human. The voice said again, "Why do you accept this bond?" Eli opened his mouth, but the words didn't come easily. He took a breath and let his heart speak, because when she kissed me, it wasn't just tradition. It changed me. I don't know what I'm becoming, but I know. I want to protect her. I want to understand her, and maybe I already do. Kella's fingers tightened slightly, and her eyes shimmered. The figure stepped forward, placing a hand on each of their heads. Golden lines connected their foreheads, and their bodies lit up with glowing waves, hers soft blue, his bright gold mixing into something new. The temple was silent for a moment. Then the figure spoke once more. The bond is true. But now the test begins. Eli blinked, confused. What test? The ground shook, the walls cracked open, and a second figure stepped out, this one darker, heavier, and its voice was made of thunder. If the bond is real, you must survive what only bonded souls can endure. Kayla gasped. No, Eli. Want us to do the trial of breath? Eli looked around, heart racing again. Trial? What kind of trial? The answer came quickly. The floor fell open beneath them, and they dropped into darkness, still holding each other's hand, and the moment the light vanished, they heard it, a voice from below, whispering in both their minds, only one breath may remain. They hit the ground hard, dust rising like smoke around them. Eli coughed, eyes stinging, but he didn't let go of Kella's hand. They were in a deep underground chamber now, dark and silent except for the sound of wind moving through ancient stone. The voice that whispered in their minds was gone, but its final words stayed sharp. Only one breath may remain. Kayla stood slowly, her face pale. Her eyes scanned the walls, tall and carved with swirling patterns that glowed faintly under the dust. This is the trial of breath, she said, her voice low. Eli's throat felt dry, his lungs tight. What does that mean? He asked. Kayla looked at him with something between fear and sadness. It means we are tested together, but only one of us is meant to leave. Eli froze. What kind of bond test kills one of the bonded? Kayla stepped toward a glowing pedestal in the middle of the room. She ran her fingers across it, and suddenly the chamber shifted. The walls pulled back, revealing dozens of thin archways, each glowing with a different color. The ground shook as a mist poured out of every arch. each carrying strange shapes, figures, shadows, memories. Eli could hear soft voices, his father's, a childhood friend's. And then, a woman he once loved, whispering his name. Kayla stumbled. Her breath catching, Eli turned and grabbed her, but she looked at him with wide, teary eyes. It's showing us what we care about most. And then, trying to take it away, the mist wrapped around his feet now, cold and smooth like water. He heard Kayla cry out softly, her body glowing as her skin reacted to something unseen. She tried to walk forward, but kept turning around, confused. "It's pulling us apart," she said, voice shaking. "I can't hear your thoughts anymore." Eli looked up at the archways, each one now pulsing faster. One glowed gold. One pulsed blue. One shimmered like a mirror. He didn't know which way to go, but something inside his chest pulled him toward the mirror. He took a step, then heard Kayla whisper something behind him. "I don't want to lose you." He turned. Heart aching. "This is a test," he said quietly. "They want us to choose between ourselves and each other." She nodded slowly. "I know what I'm supposed to do," she said, her voice trembling. "But I don't want to pass this test if it means you're gone." Eli walked back to her, took both her hands in his. "I didn't come here to survive alone," he said. "I came here because I couldn't stand the thought of you getting hurt." Kayla's glow flickered gently. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something more, but the room made its move. A deep rumble shook the floor, and the mists rushed back toward the center of the chamber. A single mask appeared in the air, half gold, half blue, floating slowly toward them. A voice returned, no longer soft. "Prove your unity," it said. "One must breathe in. The other must breathe out. Together or fall." Eli looked at Kayla. Confused, she stared at the mask, eyes wide with understanding. "It's not a riddle," she said. "They mean it literally. One of us inhales the breath of life. The other must give it. But that would mean, if we're not truly bonded," she interrupted, "we both die." Without waiting another second, Kayla stepped forward. She took the mask in her hands and held it between them. Her face was calm now, her voice soft. "If only one can breathe, let it be you." Eli stepped forward, grabbed the mask, and placed it gently over her face instead. "No," he said. "If we're bonded, then let's breathe together." Kayla opened her mouth to stop him, but he leaned forward, touching his lips to hers, not for ceremony, not for tradition, but because there was no other way to share breath. Their mouths met in silence, tongues touching lightly as golden light sparked between them again. They held the kiss longer than before, both inhaling, both exhaling, their bodies matching perfectly. And then something broke. The mask shattered in Kayla's hands. The mist vanished like smoke sucked into the stars. The chamber stopped shaking. The floor glowed beneath them. Not blue, not gold, but a mix of both. The walls lit up with symbols neither of them had seen before. Kayla fell back into Eli's arms. Her lips parted. We passed." The voice returned one last time, now softer than ever. "You did not breathe for yourselves. You breathe for each other. The bond is true." Eli laughed breathlessly. "I thought we were going to die." Kayla smiled weakly, her head resting on his shoulder. "Maybe. We were never really alive until now." The temple doors opened on their own, wide and slow. Warm sunlight poured in from above, touching Eli and Kayla like the first light after a long winter. They walked together, hands still linked, not speaking. There was nothing left to say not. After surviving the trial of breath, not after feeling each other's soul in the air they shared. The wind outside had changed. It no longer howled. It whispered, as if the very planet now breathed with them. And waiting at the edge of the temple grounds stood the council, not armed, not angry, but silent. Dozens of Alari stood in rows, their silver and blue robes moving with the wind. their eyes watching with calm attention. Kayla stepped forward but didn't let go of Eli's hand. She faced the council, her voice steady. The bond is complete. It was witnessed. It was tested. And it held. One elder walked forward, his skin dark silver with age, eyes glowing white like stars. "Human," he said. "Do you accept what this bond means?" Eli nodded slowly. "I may not understand everything, but I know I won't." "Turn away." The elder looked between them, then raised a long staff high into the air. "The bond has chosen. Not by blood, not by law, but by breath. The old ways must make space for the new." No one clapped, no one cheered. But a wave of light rippled across the crowd, each Volari glowing faintly for a second. It was their way of bowing, of honoring. Eli stood still, stunned by what he saw. Kayla leaned close and whispered, "They accept us now. But they'll still watch." Eli looked down at her fingers, wrapping gently around his. "Let them," he said, smiling softly. "We've already been through worse." Later, back aboard a larger diplomatic ship, Kayla walked with them through the quiet garden deck. Strange alien flowers bloomed beside glass windows, showing stars outside. Soft music played from the walls, notes designed to match their shared heartbeat. Kayla stopped near the edge of the window and turned to him. "You're not just a guest anymore," she said quietly. "You're a part of something we never expected. And now they want us to guide others like us." Eli raised an eyebrow. "You mean more humans or others?" "Anyone the bond chooses," she replied. "There are more species out there, more souls waiting to meet, waiting to share breath. We were just the first." Eli laughed gently. "I never thought I'd be remembered for a kiss." Kayla stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't just a kiss," she said. "It was the first true connection our kind has felt in 100 years. She leaned in, slow and soft, but this time, there was no shock, no confusion, no politics, only warmth. Their lips met again, not as strangers, not as a greeting, but as a promise. In that moment, the stars outside seemed to glow brighter, and the universe grew just a little smaller. Two hearts, once from different worlds, now beat as one, bound not by language, not by blood, but by breath, by choice, by love.